Okay, so let's get right into it. If you're still thinking about drones as, just toys or maybe some future delivery service, you need to know that that way of thinking is completely out of date. And it's actually dangerous. A very serious, very new security threat isn't coming, it's already here, and this is not a drill. I mean, just look at what happened in late 2025. In September, in California, a single hobbyist drone, just one, grounded a critical firefighting aircraft while a massive wildfire was raging. A month later, in Belgium, a terrorist cell was discovered building a 3D printed drone specifically to attack the prime minister. Then in December, a fire at a drone battery warehouse in Jakarta killed 22 people. Three totally different situations in just 3 months, all sending the same, undeniable message: this threat is real, it's incredibly varied, and it is absolutely global.
So this really forces us to change how we think about this whole problem. For a long time, we treated drone incidents as black swans, these super rare, totally unpredictable events that just catch everyone by surprise. But that's not where we are anymore. We're now living in the age of the gray rhino, a giant, obvious, highly probable threat that is charging straight for us. And for way too long, we've just been, ignoring it.
So let's get into our first section, and we need to be really clear about this. The gray rhino has landed. This isn't some problem for the future. It is happening right now.
Just how big is this rhino, you ask? Well, in 2025 alone, intelligence agencies tracked over 7,000 separate incidents involving unmanned systems. And get this, that's not even just talking about flying drones. That number includes stuff on land and even at sea. We're talking about a huge, worldwide scale of activity.
All right, section 2, because this problem is evolving at an incredible pace. We are so far beyond a hobbyist just being a nuisance. What we're seeing now are drones being used as really sophisticated, strategic tools by very serious adversaries.
And this is where it gets really unsettling. The agricultural drones you can buy commercially, right off the shelf, some of them can now carry a payload of 60 kilograms. That's 132 pounds. Just think about that for a second. That is the weight of a full-grown person.
So what does that kind of payload actually mean in the real world? Well, analysts are already tracking credible plans to use these heavy-lift drones for all sorts of things. Smuggling people across borders, for example, planning prison breaks, and even cartels using them to move supplies around or get rid of evidence. This isn't theoretical. It completely rewrites the rules for law enforcement.
And adversaries aren't just thinking one drone at a time. They're building entire strategic systems. One of the most terrifying is the drone wall. It's this layered, invisible fortress, first perfected on the battlefield in Ukraine, that gives adversaries complete and total control of a territory. It's not for defense. It's about pure dominance.
So how's it work? Well, think of it like 2 rings of death. First, you have a 10-kilometer yellow zone around the target. Anything that moves in that zone is tracked and attacked. But if you make it through that, you hit the 5-kilometer red zone, where drones systematically hunt down and destroy any and all available cover. It's designed to exert total physical and, honestly, psychological control.
So the threat is evolving like crazy. But what about our defenses? Well, here's where the real problem starts. The traditional tools we've been relying on are becoming useless fast.
Which, of course, leads to the most important question of all. Why? Why are our old standby methods of jamming and detection suddenly not working anymore?
Well, the answer is a pretty scary leap in technology. Look at this quote. Adversaries are now using drones that are physically tethered by fiber optic cables. This makes them, quote, completely immune to RF jamming, cyber interference, and every form of traditional electronic warfare. It's simple, really. You can't jam a radio signal that isn't there.
And it's not just fiber optics. They're using 4G, 5G, and even satellite links that are basically impossible to distinguish from normal cell phone traffic. And on top of that, they're 3D printing these so-called ghost drones, untraceable machines with no serial numbers, making it pretty much impossible to figure out who is behind an attack after it happens.
And to make it even harder to catch anyone, they're using something called the Orbita model. Here's how it works. The actual, skilled pilot is sitting safe and sound in a city, maybe hundreds of miles away, flying the drone. The person on the ground? They're just a low-level operative who places the drone and then just walks away. This makes finding the real person responsible a nightmare for law enforcement.
So if our old defenses are pretty much broken, how in the world do we adapt? The answer lies in a whole new way of thinking, the left of launch doctrine.
Left of launch is a total mindset shift. It's a complete 180. Instead of waiting around to try and shoot a drone out of the sky, the idea is to disrupt the whole operation before that drone even gets off the ground. You're shifting from a reactive defense to proactive intelligence.
And this strategy really boils down to 3 key pillars. First, you prioritize intelligence over hardware. It's more important to know how your enemy thinks and operates than it is to just have the latest gadget. Second, you gotta have supply chain awareness. You need to know what components are being bought and sold. And third, you leverage intelligence tools, like databases that track stolen or illicit drones. This is how you fight back against ghost drones and the Orbita model, by going after the people and their supply lines before they can ever launch an attack.
All right, let's wrap this up by looking at what's coming next. Because the challenges we're about to face are going to get even weirder, blurring the lines between technology, nature, and even what it means to be human. First up, you have what are called biomimetic systems. We're talking about drones built to look and move just like animals. A bird, a jellyfish, even something as simple as a falling leaf. But the goal here isn't just to be sneaky. The real goal is to create so many false positives, so many fake targets, that our sensors and security guards just stop trusting what they see. And that makes it way easier for a real threat to slip right through.
And the final challenge that's already on the horizon, humanoid robotics. Adversaries are actively looking into using incredibly lifelike robots as physical stand-ins. Just try to imagine a robot that looks just like a person walking up, planting a device, or testing security responses, all while the actual operator is sitting comfortably miles away, completely insulated from any legal consequences.
So when technology gets to this point, all our old rules, all our old assumptions, they just don't apply anymore. And it leaves us with one final, very complicated question. When a drone looks exactly like a bird and a robot looks exactly like a human, who exactly is responsible? That is the complex new reality we are now stepping into.